Alrighty, let's see, we're on chapter 4. So let's talk about international flow of funds. And one of the buzzwords here I mentioned was FDI, the acronym FDI. Know it, memorize it. It's the common usage for foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is very important. There are companies all over the world investing in companies in other parts of the world. So there's a big flow of money going around. In fact, first part of the chapter, we talk about the current account. It's another important buzzword. The current account means, of course, trade, which is stuff, goods, but it includes services also. Sometimes when we look at international trade balances, we just look at stuff, products, computers and clothing and stuff like that. But you have to realize that there's a lot of services in the industry that is going across borders. We're talking about money crossing borders every day. Trillions, in fact, cross borders. There's also transfers of money. What happens if you send money to somebody overseas? What if you have your son or daughter or mom or dad and they're living over in Europe? You send money there. What happens when we invest in other companies? Can you buy Samsung? That's a foreign investment. Samsung stock is a foreign investment. So you're actually buying Korean won when you buy a sliver of the Samsung stock. So that's what current account is all about. It's the big picture of all the money that goes in and out of a country. It's not only the trade deficit. The trade deficit is goods and services coming in and out of the country versus coming in versus going out. One thing I want to point out that's really important to understand in the bigger picture of things is for everyone to understand the difference between the trade deficit and the budget deficit. These are both pretty important big things. The budget deficit is not part of this chapter, by the way. The budget deficit is simply how much taxes we pay in and how much the government spends going out, in and out. It's very simple. It's a big pot of money that we pay taxes on schools and classes and sales tax and airplane tax and all of the hundreds of taxes that we pay is one big pool of money that the government takes in, different branches of the government, of course, different federal, state, local. But what goes out is how much they're spending on roads and schools and military and entitlements and all that kind of stuff. And you probably know that we have a deficit in the budget, which actually runs about $1 trillion a year and is going up, up, up. It's over 22 trillion. You can see the world debt clock. That's something that the future generations are going to have to deal with, and our politicians and elected leaders are not handling the budget deficit. So, not to be confused with the trade deficit. Trade deficit is the stuff that goes out and stuff that comes in. Okay? So, foreign exchange is another pretty complicated concept, but one way to look at it might be to consider it a two-sided coin, or it's kind of a yin-yang, meaning that when one currency rises, the other falls. And the reason why currencies are constantly in flux is because there really is that much supply and demand of various currencies around the world every day. So what that means for business is that businesses want to know and plan. They want to know the future as best they can. They want to be able to plan where their future exchange is going to be. Imagine when you take an order and it's going to take you 2 months to produce it. If you take an order in a foreign country, you're not paying in the dollars of the country that you're shipping to. You're paying in the local currency. So you have to exchange rates in order to produce goods. So exchange rates become extremely important for international business. And the point is that businessmen want to know, CEOs want to know and have confidence so they can go forward with their business plans. The first doubt of uncertainty that comes up, businesses typically hold off on growth. They pull back on expansion, and that's not so good for the economy. So you want to have businesses that know where they're going and can actually use some of the tools to help mitigate the risk of exchange rate loss. So later in the chapter, they talk about various ways to hedge currency, which means you can kind of bank yourself and buy a currency 2 months later so that you know that's what it's going to be. You lock it in and you can trade that way 2 months later, 6 months, something like that. So there's all kinds of different ways that governments allow you to hedge your currency. And also governments like to keep their currency as stable as possible. If you're not the U.S. dollar, you want to track things so that U.S. businesses can have confidence in future and growth. The last thing that we have in a concept to introduce is purchasing power parity, which is the idea that goods in different countries, same goods, don't always cost the same. It's a little bit complicated, but the way to understand that best is with the Big Mac Index. Sounds like a joke, but it's a real thing, and the Economist magazine has been studying the Big Mac Index because, as you know, Big Mac is the same in almost every country except for India, where they're not using beef. But it is, of course, if you know the commercial, two all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. That was an ad from years ago from the Big Mac. But the 2 all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun is the same in all countries. So McDonald's says, and they want it to be the same. But if you look at that purchasing power parity Big Mac Index chart, you'll see that the price of the Big Mac ranges from $1.85 to $8 or something like that. So it's not always the same. That's a good way to look at currencies and exchange rate. Last thing is one of the discussions this week is where's your stuff made? And I want you to just do that in a objective manner and grab the first thing that you see. So I would take a shirt and I would pull the tag and I'd say, okay, where is this made? Just grab the first thing that you see. You're not able to pick and choose things. Maybe there's a mouse. I don't know. I grabbed a box of Kleenex. That's not necessary. That's made in USA. But it's just the stuff that is around you. If you're in your office and you have toys or gifts or sporting equipment, tennis rackets, golf clubs, whatever you grab, the first 10 things that you grab, write down what it is, where it's made. Most things have a made in moniker. So where is it made? Just the first 10 things. And through the discussion tab, we'll find out some interesting things. We'll kind of revisit that. So anyway, that's chapter 4. Enjoy.